This is the all-new Mini Clubman, and it's a bit difficult to see from here, but it's quite large for a Mini. In fact, it is the longest, most spacious model that the brand's ever made. It's about 6 inches longer than the Countryman crossover and a whole foot longer than the last model to wear the Clubman badge. It's also proportionally wider, but not all that much taller, which, now that I look at it, really does help the vehicle still feel small and look small, both inside and out. You may notice that the Clubman has ditched its asymmetrical door design. That's partially because a short door on the right side of the car tends to work in every market except for Mini's home in the UK. But it's mostly because this is just a larger vehicle, which means there's room for full-size doors on either side. Out back, the hatchback retains the Clubman's trademark dual doors on the tailgate, which now feature a very cool remote opening function. In fact, you can kick under the bumper to open them if you need to load things when your hands are full. The Clubman is available with a choice of 2 engines. The base Cooper has a 1.5-liter 3-cylinder turbocharged engine that makes about 138 horsepower and 162 pound-feet of torque. That's a modular engine design that Mini borrows from BMW, so for the Cooper S, they're able to basically just slap an extra cylinder on the end, boosting the displacement to about 2 liters and output to 189 horsepower and 207 pound-feet of torque. That power goes through either a 6-speed manual transmission or, in this case, an 8-speed automatic with paddle shifters on its way to the front wheels. The Clubman features 3 different drive modes. There's green, mid, and sport, which are going to adjust the characteristics of the powertrain, taking it from eco-conscious to performance-oriented with a twist of a dial. Now we're surrounded by Mini's more premium new cabin design, which you're either gonna love or hate. Not many people come down in the middle on Mini's borderline obsession with circles all over the place here. But this new model does sort of split the difference. It sort of dials back the weirdness without really compromising the sort of quirkiness that makes a Mini a Mini. For example, in the center of the dashboard, there used to be a giant white speedometer. That's gone now. In its place, we have the regular infotainment stack. But echoes of that speedometer are still there in the circular housing that infotainment lives in, and in the sort of LED light ring that surrounds that, which can perform a variety of functions. Everything from acting as sort of a secondary tachometer to flashing to let you know that the forward collision warning system has been tripped. And at the very least, the power window switches are in their rightful place on the door as opposed to lost down here somewhere in the dashboard. Driver aid systems is also a bit of a mixed bag. On one hand, we've got some very cool features, things like adaptive cruise control that works all the way down to stop and go traffic, and semi-autonomous parallel parking and perpendicular parking. Unfortunately, this model does not have any of those features equipped. The best we've got is a rear view camera with proximity sensor, so we can't demonstrate any of those features. On the other hand, we've also got some cabin tech duds. I'm talking about this head-up display that rises up out of the dashboard and projects turn-by-turn information and speed data onto a tinted visor. I don't really like it. It's kind of cheap and ugly looking, and it blocks a not insignificant amount of my visual real estate. Now, generally, I like head-up displays. They do a good job of allowing you to keep your eyes on the road, but this one is just kind of plain hard to see, and on top of that, it's kind of ugly. Fortunately, with the touch of a button, you can hide it away in the dashboard, or better yet, just don't check that option box. The rest of the cabin tech is pretty good. What we've got in the dashboard is basically a reskinned version of BMW's iDrive. It even uses a similar physical controller down here on the center console with touch sensitivity so you can write your addresses in. This generation does not feature Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, so you'd better make sure you like what's in the dashboard before you drive away, because you're going to be stuck with it. Fortunately, I think you're going to like this system, especially if you're an iPhone user and can take advantage of the app integrations offered on that platform. With Android users, the best you've got is Bluetooth. What I really like about this Clubman is that despite being the largest vehicle that Mini makes, it still feels really light and nimble. It's just as fun as any other Mini, particularly this Cooper S model with its sportier suspension. I mean, the handling is just fantastic. It's comfortable when you're just cruising, but also nice and tight when you chuck this thing into a corner. The steering is really direct and responsive and has really good fingertip feel. The engine note, though, maybe isn't my favorite, especially when you're really wailing on it, but it's not a terrible soundtrack for motoring. The Clubman is more grown up, it's more upscale, and frankly, a lot more luxurious. I mean, the cabin is well appointed with things like leather seats. It just generally has a higher level of fit and finish than other Minis before it. But it still has that really fun core that makes a Mini a Mini. And I know there's going to be a lot of people on the internet in the comment section saying things like, oh, it's a maxi Mini, and oh, if it's a big Mini, it's not truly a Mini. But let me tell you, most of those people have never driven this car and aren't really giving it a fair shake. From where I'm sitting, it feels pretty damn Mini to me. Yes, it is the biggest Mini ever, but luxury doesn't come much more compact than this, or more fun to drive. Mini's positioning the Clubman as the first in its new, more premium lineup, which means that it's going to come with a premium cost. The 2016 Clubman starts at around $24,000 for the base Cooper model and peaks at around $34,000 for a fully loaded Cooper S, which brings it into competition with things like the Audi A3 and Mercedes CLA. And it compares favorably with those. It's not a better car than them, but it is a more compact option that's more city friendly, and it's got a whole lot more personality.